Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to Free Agents Demo and Roadmap with us, Accountants Therapy, as part of our NTD Together course. So, we are joined today by Hannah Miller. Now, as members of Accountants Therapy will know, Hannah is an incredibly experienced accountant. She's got some great stuff lined up for the future. And actually, I will just quickly mention that if you are an ICAW member, next week, Hannah is at the event on the 23rd of February at the ICAW Hall, and she will be talking as part of a panel. So thank you for joining today, Hannah. And I understand you are a free agent user yourself.
Yes, we've been using Freeagent for 13 years. We're just small business accountants and tax advisors, and we find that our limited companies take to it very well, and landlords and sole traders are getting there too. That minimal training and quite a successful user experience, and we trust Freeagent to provide an MTD solution to our clients.
Oh, brilliant. I mean, I'm a free agent user myself, absolutely love the product. And without further ado, I'll introduce you in a second. But for admin, a bit of housekeeping. This is recorded, so don't worry about that. If you're signed up for Eventbrite, you will get the recording afterwards. We'll also publish it on YouTube. If you've got any questions, please use the Q&A box because if it goes in the chat, we might not spot it. And what we're going to do is Stuart is going to talk us through the demo in a second. But Stu, you've been a fantastic member of Accountants Therapy. You've given us loads of insights into the development and the product phases that you're going through with Free Agent. So thank you for everything that you do. And without further ado, talk us through Free Agent.
Cheers. Thanks for having me, folks. Yeah, absolutely love accountants therapy. Me and Ben from the free agent team very much like being involved and feed it all back. And there's so much of the developments I'll show today and the kind of roadmap are based on those discussions. So very much detective emoji, kind of like face mask that we all do. So I'm going to chat maybe for 1 minute about what free agent is in case anyone's not aware. And then I'm going to dive into the demo and let the product speak for itself. So I'm going to kind of share this up here and slideshow that, and you should see that. So free agent in a slide, if you're not aware, we've kind of been around for the best part of 20 years now, built for contractors and micro businesses, but have evolved quite rapidly in the last few years. And here's some stats for you. So we've got a Trustpilot rating of 4.7 out of 5 and NPS scores of 80 and 65 with the different audiences there, the small business audience and the accountants and bookkeepers. If you're not familiar with NPS, it's a rating from negative 100 to positive 100, and anything over that 50 mark is considered world class. So up with 80 with our with our small business owners, and 65 with our bookkeeping community and accounting community, like Hannah says, is it is absolutely fantastic. And if you use the product, I think you'll love it. I genuinely, we believe so much in it. It's also free for businesses if you're with Metal, NatWest, Royal Bank of Scotland, and Ulster. If you're business banking customers, that isn't a stripped down version. We don't pull away things because it's not being paid directly for. It is the full bells and whistles. Our support team has a 98% satisfaction. They're available on the phones. They're UK based. They're all ex-practice or accountant qualifications, and they really are the absolute jewel in the product. They're really, really fantastic. If you've ever spoken to them, you'll know how good our support is at Free Agent. That kind of 4660 figure, we release silly amounts of updates every single year. We win a lot of awards for this stuff, like the Digital Disruptors Awards last year that Hannah and I were actually sitting next to each other at that award ceremony. For the amount of releases, the impact releases we've released in the accounting and bookkeeper space. And then a couple of snapshots down there at the bottom, right? The industry standard for bank feeds connected on clients is about 30 to 35%. Free agents at 78. And 80% of transactions that come in are categorized by automation on day one, not once we've learned about you, but on day one, and we have a 92% accuracy. You won't see many softwares publish their stats as openly as ours. We're really, really proud of ours. And a little red flag that if you see any 100% categorized, be wary of how much of those are absolutely guessed. We're very proud of this. So for the free agent demo, without further ado, I'm going to jump into our kind of dashboard product here. So we're going to start in a landlord. I'm going to cover a little bit of landlords and a little bit of sole traders here. So I'm going to pause on this first screen. This is what you will see or your clients will see when they log into Free Agent. This is their landing place. So we give them a cash flow overview at the start here, kind of showing the ins and outs. And to scroll down for the rest of the screen, we give them a few widgets, and you a few widgets to see what their business performance is at a glance. I realize this is an MTD webinar, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but we give them an invoice timeline here on the left, kind of a bank balance at a glance, and it's trending over time, the bills and personal expenses that are overdue, and this nice tax timeline, which shows you all the updates of the taxes coming up, how much they are, when they're due, and things like that. But since I'm in a landlord, I want to show you about the property section, because this is really, really key for any landlords when under MTD. So inside property, we give you this snapshot, a very quick individual income, expenses, and profit. And then if you click on an individual property, you'll see a P&L. So there's an example for you. But to go back a second, what we have built is the ability to do individual property ownership splits very granularly and at a single property level, so that you don't need to tag individual transactions. So I'll show you what this looks like. So if I go to edit my property settings, what I can see here is that from the 6th of April 2024, when this account was created, Keith has a global property ownership of 100%. So anything tagged against all properties feed into his MTD section in 100% of those ledger values. However, from July 2024, Keith and Stuart now split everything 50-50 moving forwards. That's the global level settings, and that will be the default for every bank transaction, invoice, bill, any kind of ledger. What we also allow is overrides of that. So you can see for this property here, 1 New Street, that from August, Keith is a 25% owner and Stuart is a 75% owner. And that means that once this has been set, and I'll set another one here, everything falls off of it. So let's say from April 2025, I want Keith to own 99% and Stuart will own 1% of Old Lane. This is the property, and I'll save changes. So anything now tagged against Old Lane when you're reconciling transactions, posting journals, whatever you're doing, from this day onwards is filtered into their MTD areas at this percentage. You don't need tracking groups. You don't need to say this is Keith, this is Stuart's with every transaction. It's done automatically, one-time action, and it's really, really powerful from there. It's a nice thing that we've got there. The kind of second thing I want to show in landlord accounts, even though it's relevant to sole traders as well, and a biggest way to streamline MTD and Free Agent is Smart Capture here. So Smart Capture is our data entry kind of product. It's on all the mobile apps. It's also on desktop. And what I'm going to do is drag and drop a receipt into this area. And Free Agent is automatically looking at that document, and you can kind of see it here. It's just a test document for this webinar, and picking out the key values, the VAT rates, the categories, the totals, the receipt dates. And we have all this in-house. This isn't farmed out to a third party, and it's already done it. That's how quick it is. Like, for many other solutions on the market, it takes a long time to do this. And that's it all categorized for you. So what happens next? Well, you can say, turn this into an expense with one click, or turn this into a bill, and all the information we've pulled out for you will be auto-populated for you, or we'll try and match this file to relevant bank transactions. So if you leave this, or your clients just snap receipts on their mobile phone, snap, 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 and they come in here and we categorize it for you, and you don't touch it, if the bank transaction exists that matches the receipt, we'll automatically link them together and attach this to the transaction. You don't have to manually reconcile them together, and we will do this for you. Now, I should say Free Agent is completely inclusive of its price, whether you're paying for us directly or you're coming through the bank, as I mentioned earlier, apart from this 2 add-ons we have. So we don't do tiers, but we have 2 add-ons. One is Amazon, that you pay for every month, and the other is Smart Capture. So we give you 10 receipts a month. I've just used one of mine here for free, and unlimited captures. I think it's £5 a month on top of that. So that's the only thing that you'll pay for if you want that extra functionality. The last piece of nailing the admin before I get into the MTD area itself is in banking. So I showed you the stats around automation, but let's have a look at what that looks like. So this is a bank account in Free Agent. Again, it's all dummy data, and these transactions have been captured by our automation. And we have automation running from day one, And then every time you interact with it, it learns from you moving forward. So, for example, this transaction here we think is rental income, and we've categorized it as so. So the ledgers are posted. If you never interact with our automation whatsoever, the ledgers will still post. However, you can say, I approve this and save changes, or if this is wrong and you change the categories, we'll then learn from you moving forwards. What we also allow is bulk explanations. So you can say, I want to click on this and this and this, and I'm happy with it. And now I want to approve all of them together. So you say, this is all right. I want the automation to learn even more about me. I can do it in bulk. Or you can kind of tick them all and kind of do it in one massive list. So you don't need to manually reconcile every single transaction. So we've got that automation running, you've got the smart capture matching against them, and you're able to bulk kind of approve. We also have a find and fix, as we call it, or find and recode, as you may know in other softwares, that you can do all this in massively detailed bulk, but I'm not going to touch on that for an MTD. That's a whole other webinar about streamlining bookkeeping, I think. So I'm going to come out of this landlord and go back into my dashboard product, the accountant product, and dive into a sole trader. Again, all the account is very, very, very similar. There's only a couple of things differently. We don't have any property in this, for example, but let's go to MTD and show you what that looks like. So I go to taxes and income tax. Now I can see for this taxpayer, Keith, that in 24-25, he's under MTD. If it wasn't, it would say self-assessment, if it was the legacy SA system. And there's a final declaration overdue. And in the 2025-26 year, then there's a quarterly update due. So let's dive into the current beta year. Now, this is Freeagent's solution. This is the overview page of MTD. So let's walk through it. You've got the annual tax estimate front and center here. This is the estimated position that we get from HMRC once we send them all the data and we pull back all of their elements that aren't in Freeagent, PAYE, for example. And we break things down into quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the adjustments before your final declaration at the end. They are the section. This end of year and final declaration is part of one workflow, but the adjustments come before you submit. Now, before I go into anything else, I want to show you the range of our support. So I'm going to go into edit details here. And you can say, do you want tax year quarters or calendar year quarters? We support both, and it's a simple option of picking whichever you want before you file anything. And then we also say, do you want full expenses or consolidated expenses? Maybe you don't want to go row by row and just do all the consolidated ones. You can pick that. And then a couple of other pieces of information that are a little bit less relevant, but you can send individual information, or you can say you're making an amendment if you've already filed elsewhere, but that's a bit less relevant for today. Now, if we take quarter 1 for an example here, you can say, this is my income. This is what's derived from all the bookkeeping. You don't need to manually enter any information here. This is taken from all the ledgers. And if you want to expand these accordions, you can see the individual categories or nominal codes that make them up. And if you click on any of these, it takes you to our general ledger and you'll see the breakdown. So let's do that. Turnover is 77,500 for this. And if I click on that, we go to our show transactions report. That's general ledger and Freeagent. And it shows you all the breakdown of all the sales you've made that come into that turnover. So let's go tab by tab. So this is the overview. But MTD is way more complex than just the overview of rolled up incomes and expenses. Under our annual summaries tab, we have any adjustments you want to enter, any allowances, any non-financial information. Freeagent supports all of this. So for example, let's say you've got an averaging adjustment. I say, oh, it's £700. It's actually now £600. Let's save that. This isn't mandatory for your quarterly updates, but we make everything that's available at year end optional in your quarters if you want to get your client a more accurate annual update by sending it at any point in the year. If we look under the employment tab, there's everything you'd expect. Do you want to declare any employment income? Do you have non-PAYE employment income? And there's a separate sections here. Let's say you say yes. Then you can either add it yourself, or when you send a quarterly update, this will pre-populate with everything that HMRC knows about you. So you can choose which you want to do. I'm going to leave it as no for just now. Individual information. This is where the longest form is. Most of the boxes, if you're familiar with the SA returns. And Freeagent supports a huge amount of it already. So charitable givings, I'm not going to go through every single one. Direction, dividends, disclosures, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. I do want to kind of call out CIS deductions. This is a really nice thing that we do under MTD. If you have subcontractors and they're paid by the contractor, obviously, and they have payment and deduction statements, we pull back the contractor's name from HMRC and the periods that they're paid in, so you can cross-reference them with your payment and deduction statements that your subbies have to make sure that everything marries up. And we display this really nicely to you so that if you, let's say the payment and deduction statements aren't really up to date on the subcontractor side or the contractor side, at least you've got a good indication of kind of what's coming and what HMRC hold on them. And this kind of page goes on, and you can say yes if you want to include things, and then again manually enter them. So let's say foreign reliefs, I want to add some foreign release, add this, etc. Or HMRC will fill in. I'm not going to go through each section and open them up. It's probably not a good use of time, and there won't be many questions on that, but feel free to have a play if you're a free agent user. Losses is quite self-explanatory. Do you want to manage any loss claims? You can enter those. And then we give you the full tax breakdown. Now, I've seen a few other solutions, and this can be quite messy. I think Freeagent does a really good job here of presenting you the tax return. We give it to you in separate boxes. So you've got your personal information and the few forms there. You then go into end of year estimate and the few data points there, and so on and so on, of saying this is your tax return. This is what you can review. Now, what we allow you to do in Freeagent that's relatively unique is you've got a couple of export options here. So I can export this entire tax breakdown and let's say use it for a mortgage request or give it to your client if you want. But I've also got the export option of just the submission data, which means if you want to prove exactly or only what you submitted in Freeagent, nothing about what HMRC knows about you, you can export that too and send it to your client and say, this is what I submitted. Nothing about the rest of your tax position that HMRC know about you. So you've got both options there. If I go and make an update here, something that we do in Freeagent is you can say, when do you want to make the update tool? Do you want to just do quarter 1, just do quarter 2, or do you actually want to do a year to date? And you'll see this is today's date. So I can just say I want to file up to today and everything be relevant. For now, I'm going to just pick a random one and do quarter 2. It doesn't really matter for demo purposes. We make it very clear what we're requesting. So in those sections I ran through earlier, when I said yes to certain things like CIS, we will request that deliberately from HMRC. And we're also very clear what we're sending HMRC. We don't want to hide behind anything here. We're sending business details, income and expenses for the periods chosen, and then all the adjustments and allowances, etc. And I'm going to click send that update. Now, something that we do that's really minor, but I love, is we give you some spinning wheels to tell you that we're processing which quarters. And we have this percentage bar. Now, this is coming from HMRC's sandbox at the moment, but this will update based on how far through the submission you are. So if I navigate through tabs, you'll see, oh, and this is now 3%. And that will just continually update. So you can go away, navigate away from the pages and come back when it's at 100%. Again, the time this takes is on HMRC, not really on Freeagent, but we want to show you that something's happening rather than you just sat around and waiting on a page. And you'll see there it's automatically updated. I didn't click anything there to go through and say period 2 is submitted. So if I look at the quarters now, this quarter is now filed. And quarter 3, which ends in January, is still due. And the start of the quarter is all the way back at the start of the tax year because you're sending cumulative quarters there. Something else we've added in Freeagent is the ability to request data from HMRC without sending them any data. And that's something that I think was talked about quite a lot in accountants therapy here. So if I do this, what I'm essentially saying is we are going to request everything you know about this taxpayer, but we will not send anything to HMRC. I think there's some accountants in the chat definitely that don't want to tell HMRC anything about that taxpayer. That's absolutely your prerogative. You don't have to. You can continuously request through Freeagent should you want to, and you can do that as much as you want. Now, I've shown you a quarterly update being submitted. The last thing I'm going to show before I go into the dashboard and show some controls is a final declaration. So I think everyone wants to know, like, how does this look? So if I go into the 24-25 year, in this account, I filed all of my quarters and I've done all my adjustments and I'm now coming to the final declaration. So if I click send final declaration, it says you can't do this until you've explained all your bank transactions. So that's cool. I'll go and explain that bank transaction. We need, and it's kind of a check on our side to say, if you've not completed your year end, you've not done your full reconciliation, you might want to do so. So I'm just going to explain this unexplained transaction as sales just now. And I'll dive back into income tax and the earlier year. So if I go send final declaration now, I should be able to do that. So step one is creating that final tax position. We're basically building up your tax return based on everything that HMRC know and everything that we know now. And again, we're giving you that kind of percentage complete. This shouldn't take too long. And I'll show you if I navigate away, this is still being done. And the status, when you look at the overview of your client, is requesting, is being sent so that it's quite clear to you what's happening. And if you go back in here, we're actually at 99% complete. That's nice for the demo purposes. And when this refreshes, we should come to 100% and it says your final tax is ready to send. So let's do that. I'll click on send final declaration. So we say carefully review your breakdown, as you'd imagine, and you've got your full tax return here. So I'm just going to scroll. I'm going to scroll slowly towards the bottom, and it's just pulling out all the things that this taxpayer has. They've got pay, they've got income received, pensions, savings, all this kind of stuff for review. And I go right down to the bottom, and you've got three options in Freeagent. You can accept this and continue, and I will do that in a second. You can reject it and say, I don't agree with what HMRC has on me, there's still more to come. Or you can save this position and come back to it later. But if I accept and continue, the final step is the legal declaration. All the software should have exactly this, and then you can send that off, and that's the final step. So you've seen the quarterly updates, you've now seen the final declaration. Freeagent's made final declarations through the beta testing in the earlier beta year as well. So we're kind of fully compliant from all that regard. Last thing before we dive into the first round of questions, before we go into roadmaps, is the dashboard level controls. So everything you've seen is a client level. Let's talk a little bit about the dashboard. We've built some things to allow you to do MTD at scale, and there's a lot more of that coming from the roadmap section. So if I go into reports here and I go into MTD for income tax report, what we have, and I'll zoom out a little bit here, is a report that shows you all of your clients, all of the users in each client, the taxpayers, because there may be a landlord account that has 5 different landlords, for example, the submission types, the date that they're due, if they require approval or not, and then their status. And we give you loads of options to customize and filter this. So I could say, I only want to look at the status of rejected, and then you can bring that up and isolate that in the view. Or you can say, I only want to look for things that are approved and waiting my action for filing. Oh, okay, there's none of them in my practice. That's good to know. But something that's really nice is you can isolate the search here. So I'm going to type in Emily Coleman, who is our chief accountant, and she's got a few businesses here. So she's a taxpayer. I've isolated that single taxpayer by using the search, but she's got do business with M, which is a sole trader. She's got a hat shop, which is a sole trader. She's also got rental property. So I can now say for this taxpayer, here's all the submissions that are due. Here's all their statuses. Here's how overdue they are. And you can sort and filter. For example, I could put this in a different order. This is the latest one in the future. And you can see all those statuses. So if you're ever having that conversation with a client, or if you want to know exactly about the individual taxpayer, but see all of their income streams, because do business with them is a different account to Hat Shop. They're completely different sole trades. You can see them in one place and have that overview across them. We've added the ability to create an alert around MTD and Freeagent. So we have this alert functionality, which runs in the background and pings you if there's things you need to care about. So for example, here, there's not non-VAT registered companies over 80K with turnover. So you need to do something about them because they're going to be getting closer and closer to the VAT threshold. But we've added an alert called MTD for income tax submission is due within a number of days. And you can set the date. So let's say I say 5. What that means is this alert now is going to run all the time on your practice, and any clients that are falling into that, it's 5 days before it's due, will suddenly appear and tell you that they need actioned. So that's quite nice. And the last thing before I stop for a bit of a break is around our controls. So we've introduced extremely granular controls for you as a practice. So in this section, settings, tax submission and access control, I'm going to isolate income tax. Now I'll walk through this one by one. So we've said, as a practice, who do you want to even see income tax? That's MTD and self-assessment. Do you want it just to be the practice? Maybe you don't even want your clients to see it. Then that's absolutely fine. Do you want it to be everybody at your practice, but only the users that can file? That's level 8. Or can all of your clients see that? And that's absolutely fine. Then under self-assessment, we can say, do you want your clients to submit? Are you happy with them submitting, even if they've connected to HMRC themselves? Yes or no? And then under MTD, this is where it gets really nice, where we say, do you want your clients to submit under MTD? And you can say, I don't want them to submit anything. Don't even want them to allow them to see the button. They can submit the quarterlies only. They can submit the quarterly and they can do their own adjustments, or they can do everything. I'm not sure that's going to be the most popular for final declarations, but we'll see what the chat think. And then require approvals. So do you want your client to say they have to approve things? So you can say no submissions. I want client approvals for final declaration. I want it for the adjustments and the final declaration, or I want it for everything. And that's going to be in the free agent audit trail. So you've got that kind of forever. And finally, you can say, you can customize your email that's automatically sent to them through free agent around the approvals to your heart's content. So there's really, really granular controls there. Now I'm going to stop. I'm conscious of been talking for 25 minutes now on a bit of a demo. So I'll stop sharing and see if there's anything that's come up naturally in the Q&A or chats that anyone wants to mention on that before I go into the roadmap about how this is all evolving.
Stu, that was awesome. That really was. That's a great product. So thank you for that. Really, really good demonstration. I'm a little bit annoyed because every time you'd show something, I'll go, oh, I've got a good question for that. And then 30 seconds later, you'd have answered my question. So I was running out of questions to ask. But we have got some in the chat and we have got a few that we would like to pose. But I really did like how that worked, particularly the CIS. I think that was a really good bit of kit. So Hannah, did you have any questions?
Um, yes, I mean, obviously, we're quite familiar with VAT returns and how to get them to be approved. And you just went through all different boxes that we could tick of the level of approval we want. If we send that email, then how does it go? Is there a link to their account and the quarterly return? And then we can choose whether we want them to actually tick a box to say they've reviewed it, or is it an attachment?
So when you say to send an approval and you send it, your client gets an email saying that you've asked them to approve it and exactly what you've asked them to approve, and they've got a login link to log into their account to see what you've sent for approval. And then if they've got a button to say I approve, and if they do, then they put in their signature and that gives them a date stamp for that, or they can say I don't approve. Whichever they do, it then sends you back an email to say this is what happened. Joe Bloggs has said they approve on this date and you're able to file, or they don't approve for this date. And then that's for you to have the conversation with your client outside of that. So it's all done via emails.
Stu, can I just ask a related question as a regular free agent user? One of the problems I'm sure that lots of other practitioners have with VAT returns is that you haven't reconciled every transaction in the bank. Is it true that you can still submit a quarterly update even if you have unreconciled transactions?
You can, yeah, absolutely. I think our position on this is quarterly updates aren't tax returns. There's a spectrum about how much everyone's going to really care about them, but we've made it so that you can file without reconciling. As you saw from the demo, for the final declaration, we've taken a harder stance and said we expect you to reconcile all those transactions, but not for the quarterly updates.
Thank you.
It's a good prompt as well, that at the end to say that there was things missing. I quite like that. Now, we've had a couple of questions about bank accounts. So someone asked about, can you pull in more than one bank account, which Ben kindly answered yes. But we've had another question from Peter, which says, I have a client with two NatWest accounts, one for rental and one for self-employment. Do they need two sets of software?
So in Free Agent, a landlord account or property income is separate from a sole trade. So you do need two different accounts in Free Agent. We've received really good kind of I was going to say press there, but it's a really nice workflow when that happens. And if you use NatWest and Metal, you can still both get them for free. It's not that we're charging you double for this, but keeping them separate P&L, separate absolutely everything is a really, really powerful way of doing MTD. And like I showed from the dashboard, as a practice, you can view them all in one place. So we're not like hiding them or keeping them separate, but as a taxpayer, they are separate. And you don't need to do very sticky admin around groups and tagging every ledger about which is which and which is what. They are completely separate. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now I've got one here. I am actually going to copy this question and put it in the chat for everyone to read because it's a very technical one. And I'm hoping you can do it, Stu. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but there it goes. So this has come in from someone who I think this is a quiz for everybody.
One of the most direct, niche and direct questions ever in a
It
webinar.
is. It could not be more technical. So apologies for putting you on the spot. But so for anyone that can't read it, is they want to ask about foreign income for the self-employed and the SA 106 completion, plus the ability to gross up a net payment received into gross income and deductions made. Is that possible with free agent by using, adding up the grossing up of commission and withholding tax?
Honestly, I'm not sure I fully get that at this stage, if I'm honest. I'd like to take that one away. There's nothing that we aren't supporting, I don't think. And in the interest of like pleasing everyone in the audience, let's go into maybe the roadmap and we'll come back to the niche ones at the end,
Definitely, because
potentially. Or
we
if
have got
Ben's
Ben
in the
on
chat.
hand.
Yeah.
Ben's in the chat as well. So yeah, apologies for putting you on the spot there, but that's one that we're going to be getting a lot, I think.
No worries. Okay, I'll dive into the roadmap now, and then we can maybe show we can go into more Q&As at the end. So hopefully the roadmaps is the most exciting part of this if you're familiar with Free Agent. There's a lot here that I'm very, very excited about. Now, Free Agent has a huge roadmap. We've got a big product and engineering team, and we're very proud of them. And there's a lot I'm not touching upon, such as are we supporting payrolling and benefits for the mandation in 2027? Well, we absolutely are, but it's not really relevant on an MTD adjacent kind of webinar and roadmap. So there's a lot here that we are doing that is non-MTD related, but I'm only going to touch on MTD related stuff. Oh, cool. So the first kind of update is taking you back to that dashboard view that I showed across all your clients, and I put in Emily Copeman's name and isolated the taxpayer and used the filters. We're moving that into bulk actions. So this is the dashboard view as it is today with a few additions. The first is at the top here, we're introducing far more of a tabbed approach. So you can see what's ready to file, what's approval required, what's in progress, and individuals within your practice can go into the individual tabs that relate to them and action MTD related things. The second is this actions button on the right-hand side, which currently says switch to client, is now going to say, do you want to send an update to HMRC for the quarters? Do you want to mark it as filed if you're filing somewhere else? Or do you just want to go into their account? So that means that from the dashboard, without going into the client, you can file quarterly updates. If you've got quite a liberal stance on what quarterly updates are, you can just do it from here. You can either go in and check it and come back, or you can just do it without checking. You're also able to go into our bulk pattern here, which is kind of what I showed in banking, where you can go tick, 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 tick up the left. And then we introduce this banner. As you can see, 8 has been selected. I've cut off the screenshot here so that it only looks like less, but there's 8. And I want to bulk send them to HMRC. So again, if you've done all your quarterly updates checks, or you're not even going to do quarterly updates checks, you just want to get them done, you can do this all from the accountant product without even going into your client and do it in one bulk run. Just to be clear, mark as filed means you're filing them elsewhere, but you don't want to leave them overdue in Free Agent forever. So you can just say they're done. They're done somewhere else, but I'm not actually filing them. And we're going to support both of these. This is coming very soon inside of the product. Next, and what our kind of tax team are building is the opt-in automation of approvals and opt-in automation of filing. So I'll walk through this screenshot for you. Now, approvals and filing are completely separate. This screenshot kind of shows them together, but they are independent things. So let's go through it row by row. So the first question is, do you want to send client approvals automatically so that when you're doing the bookkeeping and if you're keeping it up to date, let's say every day, every week, every month, whatever your process is, do you want to automatically send that to your client? And if you do, you can say, well, when? I want to send it 10 days or however many days you pick before the filing deadline. Or the other option in this drop down is after the period opens. So if you know your team's always done it within the first week of the period, you can set this to send an approval automatically for every single client or the clients of your choice. You can pick them individually if you want, automatically. So you don't need to do that manually. You don't need to use that bulk function I just mentioned. This can be set to done automatically. The second part of this kind of form is, Do you want to automatically send quarterly updates? And you can say yes or no. And if you say yes, you get this other option that says, well, even if your client hasn't approved it, do you still want Free Agent to send that for you? Because maybe your client's on holiday, or maybe you want to untick this because you're really a stickler about getting that approval on the audit trail, and that's fine too. The choice is yours. And you've got an option to say, well, how many days after sending the approval do you want us to send that automated filing? So if your threshold's like, I want everybody to approve in 2 days, or then I just want it sent, or actually you want to give your clients loads of time. I should say if approvals aren't on, then you still get the send automatically, automatic quarterly updates, and then you get that option of when do you want to send them as well, like 10 days before they start, 5 days before they end, whatever you kind of want. So a fully automated and customizable solution. So we're not going to mandate when these are sent. It's totally up to you.
Stu, can I just ask you a quick question? Can you customize the emails that get sent to clients?
Yeah, absolutely. That's live today, Tom. So whatever you want to send in the wording is completely up to you, and you can override it on a client by client basis.
Oh, that's cool.
I should say we're not building automated filing for final declarations. I think that and the adjustments is probably a step too far. If we hear from the demand in accountants therapy that people want to automate their tax returns, then I'll be surprised, but we'll look into doing it. I think that might cross the boundaries
Yeah, I
into
think I would be very surprised, but got the chat open, guys. Just fire in what you think, really. I personally would not like that feature, but I appreciate the question over it.
yeah. The next is about the mobile app, and I haven't touched on this at all. Free Agent's mobile app is absolutely stellar. What you have on the left-hand side here is similar to that tax timeline view I showed in the overview page, where you've got in that income tax quarterly one update, and it's due right now. The November update's due, and then there's some upcoming things. But what we're adding is the ability to view the entire quarter in your mobile app, and then also send updates from your mobile app. So if you've got clients that are very mobile heavy and that you're not in any like kind of year one or at any point want to opt into the bulk actions or the automation and you want your clients to do it all, they can do it all from the mobile app too. And that's coming very soon too. We're adding landlord rental statement extraction. So at the moment, I demoed what Smart Capture looks like when you upload a rental extraction, and it kind of does it one by one. But what we're morphing that into is the ability to chuck in PDFs or email in PDFs or even a spreadsheet that just has ins, outs, and a description. And we'll create this view on the right-hand side to mimic sort of a journal set where you can review all the ledgers and then click I confirm, and it will automatically post them all for you. So for those landlord extraction statements or landlord rental statements, whether it's one property or 8 properties, you essentially get your client to throw that into the big black box, into our uploader, or you can do it for them. We'll categorize it for you. You'll have a review step to say, yes, that's correct, and you'll send it. Now, without mentioning any names, there's quite a few solutions on the market that have flirted with this. None of them categorize the VAT and category for you. You've got to manually enter that. We'll be able to do all that for you. So it's a one and done thing. You don't need to kind of override these figures, but you can if you want to. A couple more things. Tracking groups, you may know them as kind of tracking categories. We're quite close to releasing this in Free Agent. It is MTD related. You don't need this in MTD, but this will also impact the way that you kind of do your returns if you want it to. And there's so many screenshots I could show here and workflows around tracking groups, but I picked out 2. The one on the left is we're not calling it cost centers, we're not calling it departments, we're not calling it locations. It is whatever you want it to be, as in, here's a group, call it whatever you want. And then the labels underneath, you can have as many as you want, and you can call them whatever you want as well. And they will appear every time you explain a bank transaction or create an invoice. You can pick whatever ones you want. And this screenshot on the right is the bulk allocation. So if you want to retrospectively go back onto a full year of accounts and say, in this case, I've got client type, which is a group, and I've got work type, which is a group, but I want to allocate X, Y, and Z across them in huge, huge numbers, you absolutely can. It doesn't have to be done on a one-by-one basis. And this kind of find items at the top kind of isolates exactly the ways to do this. So you can say, yeah, I want to pick these VAT rates and this description. Okay, I want all of them to go against corporate clients or anything like that. So that's coming. And the last screenshot before I show you a very quick product demo of what went live today is bank rules. So Free Agent's automation is terrific. I've showed you those stats. We're really, really proud of them. But we definitely recognize that bank rules can get you that 5%, 10% that automation struggles with, especially on day one. So this is in beta now. There is quite a lot of our practices that are testing this, and we're aiming to go live very, very soon to everybody. And it should be exactly as you expect if you know bank rules, where you say, here's my conditions. So for example, any transaction that says test with an amount less than 20 quid, the outcome is this category, this VAT rate, this description, right? That's all absolutely fine. You can set it up in advance so your MTD clients can have this. And then when they come in and the bank feed pulls in all the transaction, all the rules run and our automation runs after the rules that you've created. So the last thing I'm going to do is show you something that went live today, and that is the CIS in the banking area. And this is a really nice one for MTD. So I'm going to switch back into that sole trader. I'm going to go into settings. They're already set up, but I just want to show you what it looks like. This is our CIS settings. Ignore the contractor side just now. We're just looking at the subbies. They're more likely to be caught by MTD, more likely to be sole traders. And you say, are you a subby? And if you are, you've got the choice of deduction rates. You can pick multiple. You only should have like one at one time, but you're able to pick multiple if you want. Now, Free Agent has supported CIS for subbies since 2018, but what we've added is the ability to do it without invoices. So if I go to this bank account, for example, I'm going to find a money in transaction. A lot of these are kind of unlocked. I'll actually just create a new one. So if I add a new transaction here, let's say I've got sales from my contractor and I'm going to put in £5,000. Why not? And I categorize that as sales. Now, before I do, let's put in contractor payment. We've got the ability to override the sales 001 nominal and say, actually, this is CIS income 20%, or this is CIS income at 30%, or let's say it's gross. So if I pick 20% here, and remember, it's a £5,000 transaction, what we don't do is make you gross up the amount. So I'll show you what this looks like. So the bank balance is still £5,000. I created it manually, but let's say this came in via a feed. Still £5,000. However, we do some fun things with the ledgers to gross it up for you. So if you remember, it's the 11th of February. It's a contractor payment. If I go into our show transactions now, that's our general ledger, and I look at the income category, we've actually posted the grossed amount up to CIS, not just the net amount. And if I look at the CIS deductions, the opposite side, there's the offset of the double entry bookkeeping for that amount. So you don't need to, for your CIS subbies now, go, this is net, I need to gross it up, I need to do the deductions. We do that all for you by explaining it to CIS. And if you've got any materials, you can split that before you do this explanation. So that's live today, and that should make MTD much easier for anyone that's got subbies that doesn't do the invoicing. Maybe they're self-billing, right? So they don't need to manually recreate invoices. So that's the end of the roadmap stuff. We've got 50 minutes left for the call, but back to you, kind of Tom and Hannah.
Love that CIS. I mean, I'm not sure how everyone else feels, but those subcontractors that refuse to get digitally onboarded, Metal Bank account, Free Agent does most of the work. Yeah, really like the look of that. Any questions, guys? Far away. We have got one, Stu, about foreign property income. I assume this needs to be done separately from the UK property income.
Yeah, so
the quarter updates.
Of all the income types that are being supported under MTD, everything you need to do bucket, the only thing that we're not going to have ready for the first tax year is foreign income, foreign property income, sorry, not foreign income at all, but foreign property income. That is separate to the UK property income. It's a whole separate system. You need to report on them very, very differently, such as you need to reflect every foreign property under the property income sections. And so it's something we want to do, but we won't have that live for first year. Everything else is going to be live. I think there's another question around the cash basis. Yeah, Free Agent supports cash basis and accruals basis, and you can switch at any point through the year. And then for your MTD, you can say which you're on as well, if it's different to your VAT basis, for example.
Fantastic. Have you seen the question that's just come in about the grossing up of CIS? Do you want to read that one out and answer that one, Stu?
Yes, absolutely. The CIS gross up, can we amend that to crew materials? Yes, you absolutely can. So in that workflow, I won't go back into the demo and do it, but essentially you click split transaction, and then when you split, you say how much is for materials, and you enter that in, and then you'll be left with the rest. And the rest you just explain to CIS income, and it will do exactly what I did in the ledgers. I think from what we've learned that a lot of subbies don't even have materials; they just have the labour every week or every month, and they're quasi employees. So you've got that nice workflow. But if you do have materials, it's just an extra 2 clicks to change it and say this amount is materials, and it comes off the net.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue that our clients have is when you have to split different bank receipts or payments between different entries in free agent. And obviously, once you know what you're doing, it is very straightforward. But even long-time clients of ours, I find that if they've got someone pays an invoice, one payment to make more pay more than one invoice, when they have to split it out, they find it hard. So my related question is really on the rental income. When you did that screen, that if say someone is not using smart capture
Mhm.
and they receive a net rental income which agrees to their rental statement, it's spitting out that income between the gross income and the different lines for the property expenses, which will be required to submit the MTDQU.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Let me bring up that screen again, just so everyone's clear on what we're talking about here. Yes, that is exactly what this is doing. So, if you only get the net into the bank, then yes, you'll need to say what's the gross manually, unlike the CIS solution, because we won't know because your bank won't know what the gross is. But what this solution allows you to do is use the document to be the source of truth, and the net in the bank account will match with the net in this landlord rental extraction area. So you just need to match the two together, which is a simple click.
Thank you. But can you go back onto the landlord license when you had your rental income? If, say, that was a net amount, how you add the transactions in the bank account to gross it up and then split out the rental? Because I find this is the kind of thing that my clients have the most problem with, receiving one payment and not splitting out. So if they weren't using that smart facility, that
Yeah.
they would have to manually do it, or we would have to manually do it. And this is the kind of work that I think practitioners need to know about when they're doing their pricing to see whether their clients can manage the agent statements themselves or whether we'll be needing to do this manually.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me 2 seconds. Let me go into this landlord account and find a money in transaction for you. I'll need to unfile MTD because I've filed this MTD document. So if you want to move on to, I will come back to this. I'm just doing this in the background. Is there any other questions while I look for this?
Is Free Agent ready to go from April for doing the quarter updates, doing the tax returns? Is there anything left? I know there's a lot of APIs still being created by HMRC, which is in their court, and everyone's got that problem. But how ready is Free Agent to go?
Yeah, very much ready. I think if you look at any of the, I think public lists from Craig Ogilvy of number of filers and whose software have done what, you'll see Free Agent very much up there for all that stuff. Yeah, we've got a lot of hundreds of people to the beta. I
Mm,
don't know the exact number off the top of my head, thousands, I think now.
yeah,
And we're ready to go. There are a few things that aren't there that don't exist yet, as you say. I think some good examples are like foster carers, partner income, not partnerships. But if you're a sole trader with
yeah.
partnership income, you need somewhere to put that on your self-assessment. These things don't exist. So we will be as ready as anyone really is come April time.
And customer service wise, we'll start off. How do agents get in touch with Free Agent if they've got problems? And then if a taxpayer is using Free Agent, how do they get in touch?
Yeah, so we've got, as I said, all our support team is UK based. We've got dedicated support for both small businesses and practices. But to be honest, most of our support team do both because most of them are ex-practice, so they can do both. And we are kind of, I think it's 9 to 5, Monday to Friday are our phone lines. And the same with live chat, and that's the real agents. And we have weekend support as well. And then online on our website and all in our guides, we have like a chat bot. It's called Ruby the robot, we call it, which answers your query or receives your query and serves you back the best guides that match your query. And if you don't get an answer, then it puts a ticket into the pot for the next day for the people to pick it up. Let's say you're doing it at midnight or
Mm.
whatever, then they'll pick it up at the next day. And I think our SLAs for first time response time are in the minutes. They're not in the hours. So yeah, it's all there in UK based phone line, live chat, and AI essentially.
Yeah,
That's
and
really good.
our clients really appreciate it. I mean, obviously, a lot of them go through us. That's what we're here for. But the practice support for practitioners is absolutely amazing. They get back straight away, and they always make sure that you've understood it and that you're happy, and you know the opportunity to feedback. So I think that and all the different mechanisms for support for free agent are working very well.
Does Free Agent have account managers for accountants?
It certainly does, yeah. I'd like to say, so I did say on a webinar quite a while ago, if you use Free Agent and a practice, your account manager probably hasn't changed in the last few years. We have a very low turnover and a very good one. And someone said, well, mine just had, and it was because somebody went on maternity. So I had to clarify that we do give maternity leave or paternity leave or shared parental. But I think, yeah, if you use Free Agent, you'll likely have had the same person for a while, and they are very hands-on. And as I should say, a lot of the developments I've showed today come from accountants therapy. I've called that out, but also our account managers and the feedback loop that
Mm.
I hear, my team hears from the likes of the accountants outside of therapy as well, is so good. We are very proud that we build based on what people are telling us rather than what people like me in product think we should do.
Always feels like a no-brainer to me, but it's not across the board, isn't it? To listen to what
And you
everyone
get
wants
free
and
socks and free vinyls if you go to the road shows. The road shows are very good and personable, and there's sort of the real team and the people who are building the software are there, and your account manager, and they're very friendly, and they're all across the country, and you get free socks and sometimes other things. So it's great.
So I've got a bank account up here, and I'll show you how to split a transaction. I haven't prepped it in line with it being related to properties, but I'll show you what the kind of the process looks like. I don't want to
Okay.
avoid that thing. So I've got like a £6,000 money in here, and if you want to say this is made up of multiple things, the way that you do that is you click on the transaction, and under adjustments you've got split transaction. So this is where you would do it if you've got a net and you need to gross it up to something else. So I can say, for example, and I'm just going to use this, like I think that of the £6,000, I want to put a certain amount to sales, and that's £1,000. Again, it's not going to meet your use case here directly, but I don't have a property thing set up. And it says, well, if I'm putting £1,000 to sales, then I've got 5,000 left over. So if I do that and just say, okay, cool, that's that done. What Free Agent does is it still leaves the gross as the same. So I've still got 6,000, but I've explained 1,000 and I've now got 5,000 to explain. Again, if I need to split that again, that's cool. I go, okay, there's something else. I'll split the transaction. I'll pick money received from user. Let's say it's 200 quid is received as capital introduced. I don't know. Absolute nonsense for a demo, but there you go. 1,000 there, 200, and that's now reduced to the remaining balance. That's the process of splitting transactions in Free Agent, and it would be exactly the same if you had a net rental and you wanted to deduct fees, then it comes off of that. That's the kind of process.
And
and
is there
question coming
something
from
in the knowledge
Joanna.
base? Mm?
Sorry, go ahead, Hannah.
Yeah, no, that was really helpful. Yeah, sorry for springing that on you. And I assume that there's something in the knowledge base. I mean, normally our clients ask us and we do it for them, but it's just sort of, getting used to the kind of questions that are going to ask if people have agent statements of, because there might be a number of items they need to put in one place,
Yeah,
so that we
absolutely.
can
So we
teach
go
them.
we go a little bit further than that, that we have a link away from it inside the product. So if I go to this remaining balance here and you need to explain it, then we do, for some of the explanations, we say, get help with choosing a category. And that takes you directly to a knowledge base that tells you all about our categories, how to split, how to do banking, so that you don't need to kind of go off here to search for it. If you're stuck, you kind of click that link and it takes you to a KB like this, in this instance, where it's like, choose the appropriate type and how to explain bank transactions. That's exactly what you want to see if you're a customer and you don't know what you're doing. So we have that in-product link away without having you to have to go and search somewhere over here.
On
Thank you
that
very much.
split, Stuart,
Yeah.
Joanna's asked, can you split it between personal 80/20? I think she means like, can you say I'm splitting it 80% business, 20% personal, rather than just
So
amounts?
So the way that Free Agent does personal accounts is if you say this is a bank account, in fact, I'll show you, why not? Let's let the product speak for itself. So if this is a business account, you'd have to put 20 to, let's say, drawings, if it's personal. But if it is a personal bank account, what Free Agent does is something quite nifty here. So if I create a new bank account and I say, this is personal, what it means is every transaction that's imported and that comes in via bank feed, you don't need to explain. It's grey. It has no ledger impact. You only need to explain the ones that are personal. And that makes it far easier. And so that in that way you can split it. So I don't have any ledgers here in this bank account to show you the full demo, but when you tick that, and that's a really heavily trodden path in the MTD world. If I connected a bank feed here, they'd all come in, they'd all be grey, no ledgers. We just show you exactly as the other bank account does, but all grey and don't have ledgers. Imagine this. And if you go, oh, this one isn't personal, this one's business, when you explain it, it then goes green and it has ledgers posted behind it. Or you can only explain a fraction of it and it only posts the business one. And the reason we do it that way is so you don't have to go through everything in a bank account and say business, personal, business, personal. You just say it's all personal. I'll only explain the business percentages. That's all you need to do.
Fantastic. And can you create a category for niche items? So I think that means the chart of accounts. Can you create a nominal code that's
Yeah.
completely unique that isn't in the basic chart?
Yeah, absolutely. We have full, I'll kind of show very, very quickly before we jump to the end. In settings, you have accounting categories and you can create and customize your chart of accounts to your heart's content. So you've got your income, admin expenses, cost of sales, capital asset, all the things you expect on your P&L and your balance sheet. And then I can say, look, I want a new income category. I want to call it test demo, and then it's created, and then it now appears in all your drop downs with every bank account, but invoice, expense, and all that kind of stuff. If it's an expense, you'll get more options like what's your tax return box for this expense? Is it allowable for tax? What's your default VAT rate? All those kind of things. So yeah, you can customize that to your heart's content.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And Stu, if you had like a personal account and say you did happen to have, because you've been going for years, your sole trader transactions and your landlord account transactions in both that personal account or a business account, and you wanted to connect it to two different free agent licenses, can you connect a bank feed, the same bank feed, to two different licenses, please?
You can, yes. What you would have to do in that situation is either in both mark them as business and then explain the sole trader ones and the landlord to drawings and vice versa, or mark them both as personal and only explain the landlord income in the one and the sole trader income in the other, because then you'd be duplicating it essentially. But there's no issue with doing that if it's both done from the same bank account.
Okay, that's really good news. Now that this has all been really helpful. I think what would be, helpful is just to make sure these kinds of questions, which I think are the regular questions which are being asked and will be asked as MTT gets underway, is if just having those useful links and screenshots and so that we can send them to clients. But thank you very much for joining us. That's been really helpful, and I'm sure it has been for the group.
Yeah, and thank you, Hannah, for your insight. It's great to have someone on board that knows Free Agent like the back of their hand. And thank you again to Stu. Stu, if anybody's watching this and wants to get in touch with Free Agent, how should they go about doing so?
Yeah, well, thanks for your time. I love doing these things, and this makes it extra special. I think if you want to get in touch with Free Agent, if you are a practice, then on our website you can either sign up for a free trial or you sign up even just to speak to our sales team to see what that means for you. We're really open about speaking to humans and learning about what your pricing is going to be up front, what it looks like, what you get as a demo. You don't have to jump through kind of hoops for all that stuff. So I'd say go onto our website and look at the practice section for accountants and bookkeepers, and that will put you in touch with an account manager like Tom and Hannah have on our side. If you want to speak to support, then you can speak to them through the methods I've spoken to. But I think going through the sales channel is the right way, and you'll have your dedicated individual to look after you.
Honestly, thank you so much for today, Stu. You fielded some incredible questions there, sort of very niche ones. Apologies for putting you on the spot there, but I think we're going to see that one a lot because that's a real niche one that seems to be a bit of trouble for a lot of software vendors. Cannot speak more highly for everybody that's joined today. Thank you very much for your questions. Thank you for your support. A big shout out to Ben Morley, who is in the chat from Free Agent. He's been an incredible member of Accountants Therapy, great guy, and honestly incredibly knowledgeable. And Stu, yourself as well, been absolutely fantastic. So thank you, everybody. This recording will go out to everyone that's got the Eventbrite link, and then it will go onto YouTube in the future. And if you've got any questions, feel free to fire them away to anybody that's in the chat today. And that will be me closing. So thank you very much, everybody. All the very best.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Bye.
Tom, Stu. Bye.